Kurt is done, I'm gonna ask if we can go to that on the agenda.
I know, I changed that.
What's in between?
Very hard for me to do that.
Oh, okay, then I won't.
I'm sorry, I wish I, you had let us know, so we can move it up. She wants to see, look. I'm showing up. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can do it right now.
Well, hang on, Connie, it doesn't matter, because number 3 is a slam dunk resolution. It's state statute, and number 4 covers. No, it's fine, it's fine.
Straighten that from the agenda.
Correct, yep. No, I don't need to spank you, I need to spank me.
Next time I'll come to you and I'll say.
No, because I didn't think about it until Kurt asked me, and then I was like, well, crap.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine, it's just, this is gonna take 2 seconds.
Please.
You've been married for a while.
Yep. Yeah, it's if you want to discuss it as part of bonding. Yep. Okay.
Got it, Mr. Kayla. Would you please sign in?
Come on now.
You want us to sign Mark in too?
No.
You just wanted to see if it works.
No. Mr. Goodis, would you please sign in?
Dan, would you sign in, please?
Mr. Caleb, would you please sign in? Thank you.
So Lois won't be here. Okay, Mark won't be here. Is Dave here?
No. I haven't seen him yet.
Okay. Do you know if Dave is coming? No? Okay.
I don't give my phone number out to anybody.
Mike, do you know if Dave is coming? No? Okay. Okay. Wasn't, okay.
You come to judge.
Mm-hmm.
You lose something? Actually.
Mhm.
Because you lose your son.
Oh, I'm cool.
You can think it, you just can't do it.
You were supposed to hear that.
What is mine?
Yes.
7 o'clock.
Yep, go ahead.
7 o'clock, I'll call the October meeting of the Rusk County Board of Supervisors to order. First order of business is roll call. We have a quorum, 16 present. We will continue. Next on the agenda is invocation led by Mr. Phil Underschutz. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Dan Goodis.
be able to come together to solve our differences and find common ground for the good of the county. Give us wisdom that we would make the right decisions.
Thank you.
Now we need approval of the September 26th and October 2nd minutes. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? No discussion, you can vote now to approve. Yeah. 16 yes, motion passed. Public comment. Come on, up to the microphone.
Those of you who know me, oh, I probably don't need a microphone. My name is Kent Olafs. I live 2 blocks down here on Minor, 520 East Minor Avenue. And, I'm here to, talk to you about the possible closure of Minor Avenue here in town. We made residents down on Minor. And not a single one of our contacts said that they were in favor of it being closed. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the jail was across the street here. Some of you old farts like me probably remember too. It wasn't much of a jail. It was an old brick building, 2 stories high, and even the sheriff's family lived in there, I believe. And, the road was still open. You know, the court was still over here. They didn't have any problems with it. So I would strongly urge you that if there's more discussion, and it looks by your agenda there will be, a possible closure of Minor Avenue, that you reconsider your thoughts of earlier and vote no. Thank you. Any questions, anyone?
Thank you. Anyone else?
All right, Brian Joels. I live a block down. My address is 411 Minor Avenue East. Also am part owner of River Rock Rentals, which is the unit on the corner here at 403 Minor Avenue East. Also speaking on behalf of my parents, Michelle and Andy Janesco. They own a 2-plex on 617 and 617 and a half Minor Avenue East, and also they own a home on 621 Lake Avenue East. I am against this jail being over Minor Avenue. I just think you really need to think that through. That's one of the main roads left going east to west through town. The increased traffic on Lake and Borden Avenue with that closure should be taken into consideration. I think more safety issues, whether it be with schools, and I think decrease of property values also could be part of it too. Our rent on our properties might be less also affected, just being so close to the new jail. I guess I'm not against a skyway, you know, if the jail had to be built on the other side, you know, compromise a little bit, but in no way do I want that building built on Minor Avenue. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Bolton. I live at 504 Minor Avenue East. See on your agenda is this
authorize to the city of Ladysmith to vacate Minor Avenue. As I live on Minor Avenue, obviously, it's no surprise that I'm not really in favor of that. Anyone's gonna be shocked by that statement. Does not mean that I'm not in favor of the fact that the jail needs work. Understand some of that. A lot of questions about that myself. Just to try to understand more. The things that I have that come to question are like, the county really hasn't changed from 1970 population. And the bed count. There's some questions that I've sent to Chief Deputy Grassman. I hope I hear from him. I'm hoping to speak with Dirk Wallace there after this. Where that closing Minor Avenue is not necessarily the most cost-effective things that you guys are going to see. I listened to the ad hoc meeting about it. There was $3 million was kept being brought up. I don't know what that breaks down to over the course of all the residents in the county versus 20 years for a loan for $100,000. But what is that? I don't know. What do you guys know? Because to me, that's what you're putting on closing down the main street that goes to the schools and such. Again, I just don't see it right now why that would be. Thank you for hearing me out on that. The other portion I saw was you guys are gonna potentially be offering to buy the clinic. I was wondering if there's any plans for that, anything that you guys would share. But, just kind of the tear down of the hospital and your guys' clinic, and I'm guessing there's some plans, but I also understand. It's just your, anyways, if you have any questions? No, otherwise, thank you for your time. I really urge you to knock those down my head.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? If not, public comment is closed. Now we got a presentation of budget review. That will be with Jamie and Randy.
Randy had asked me to kind of give an overview of the budget, so you guys have something to think about, get questions ready before next month's budget meeting. The budget hearing notice is going to be in tomorrow's paper. Some highlights, this includes borrowing for, highway projects as well as potentially the jail and, shared tower upgrades. And so, the borrowing plan is to kind of borrow every other year. There's substantial costs sometimes involved with borrowing. So we'd be borrowing $3 million for highway projects in 2024 to cover the work that will be done on highway projects for 2024 and 2025. It's a little over that we would estimate to borrow for the tower projects. And then, if we do borrow for the jail, that would be kind of staggered over multiple borrowings. So in the budget, we had put in $10 million as a placeholder for that. However, we don't have exact draw schedules as far as what we would need in that time frame at this point. At the end of 2022, our unreserved fund balance or unassigned fund balance was about 71%. And what that is our unassigned fund balance as a percentage of the operating expenses in the general fund for the year. We are utilizing quite a bit of the fund balance in 2023, so I'm projecting that reserve will be closer to 50%. It's recommended that we have at least 25% in that operating reserve as a 90-day reserve. And in the budget, we are planning on utilizing some fund balance. However, it would be less than what we used in 2023, as we do anticipate borrowing. We have that included in the budget anyway. Some other highlights, we have some increased expenses in as another position was added there. There's some increases in the courthouse maintenance budget. The medical examiner budget decreased by about $50,000 due to the decrease in the per diems. we're projecting a 6% overall increase for health insurance premiums. The sheriff's department went up because they have, union contract, raises included in that. We had increase in, anticipated investment revenue in the, treasurer's budget as well. Overall, our levy for 2023 was 8.6 million. We're expecting it to be closer to 8.9 million in 2024, as in 2023, we had applied some of the proceeds from sale of the old Corning Conlin building against the debt service that we, levied onto the taxpayer, but we don't have that same application of proceeds in 2024.
Have we gotten a final on the health insurance yet?
Yes.
Mhm.
It was what, 4%?
It was a 4% increase for our renewal plans. Depending on how many people go with our buy-up plan, there will be an additional increase. Alicia is estimating it'll be about a total 6% increase over last year.
What we have?
Any questions?
I guess we talked about the budget here, and you have before you the sheriff's radio system upgrade. That was like 2.4?
Yeah, just over 2.4.
So that's what you have before you.
And the budget document that was approved by the finance committee is on our website. It's, if you go to the departments and then the finance page, the budget is there. So I wasn't planning on emailing it out, so it's available on the website, but if you'd like to email it to you.
I did have questions, as far as borrowing this money, like for the power upgrade and the highway. We've got fairly comfortable, unreserved general fund. So, do we really need to borrow that money at this time? If we borrow money, that will, if you look at our allowable, debt limit, which is like 77.9 million, we already have a debt of 11 million. So that takes us down to 66.
I actually have those numbers right here. So right now, our percent of legal debt limit incurred is 11%, so we would have about 89% available for our borrowing capacity.
89 million now?
Or well, yeah, the percentages.
I
So
just
our
started-
limit is $87,446,855. And our outstanding at the end of 2023 is just under 9.7 million.
So, the last finance meeting we had Justin from Baird and Associates was here. One of the questions I asked was, what is the, I don't know if it's allowable or a comfortable debt load that the county could assume with within our figures? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said 40% of that amount. Did I hear him right?
I don't remember.
I was thinking it was what the 50%, so right around 60, yeah.
And some of the figures I'm hearing for, a new facility, I heard right, 45 million? 46. Oh, 43. A lot of things to consider. But does anybody have any questions on the budget or borrowing
Mr.
or
Undershoots?
anything else?
First off, I'd like to say, somebody emailed me and say that they have sound but no video.
Yeah, they're in contact with IT.
Second of all, I'd just like to make the comment that not everybody is. We're covering for our project, covering for highway every other year, placeholder for borrowing. And borrowing, I remember, 750,000. Highway equipment,
No, that is levy.
but we're essentially borrowing in another place though. we're taking $750,000 before the equipment fund used to take care of it. They get charged out. Now we're taking levy dollars for that. I think that for the last however long we've been able to maintain the equipment fund. So, we need levy dollars. Figure out how to do that. I mean, what's the 5-year plan from now? We can't just borrow for everything all the time.
Any other questions? If not, go to the next item on the agenda, which is presentation update from Ad hoc Construction Committee. Mr. Kurt Berner from Samuel's Group.
Evening, everyone. So I know we're gonna be talking about, potentially addressing the city and the streets closure, and I thought
Running to the integrated camera.
just give you a brief update on what's been done to date. So we're in the communications plans phase, so remember that we're gonna get to the end. The gentleman that was up here asking about the details of the need for a jail. It is the intent to get, in a schematic design perspective and get some elevations created so that we can show the community what that project potentially would look like. It's also to identify a website that all of your taxpayers will be able to go to and open up, see the deficiencies of the jail, see the solutions, see the tax impact. That's all part of this communications plan. And we're just getting started on determining the building, where the building's gonna go. So the course of what happens here is there is a space program process where the design team will come in and collectively look at all of the elements that need to be in the jail. And essentially, your jail is comprised of a few key components. It's your housing unit, it's your pre-booking, your booking, and then jail support, which would be the kitchen and laundry. And what does that size need to look like? So where we are currently is there was multiple options that were brought up, trying to maximize the existing block that this building sits on. What do we do with the block across the street that you own? And then obviously the street comes into discussion. So the reason that the street comes into discussion, and the gentleman that had the question before about the jail being across the street, is the connection between the jail and the courts is important in regards to safety and security. So when you have an inmate that needs to go to court, that there is a secure connection where they're not crossing paths with the public. They're coming from their housing unit to a holding cell that is right adjacent to the courtroom. Into the courtroom, after the hearing, they leave and go back to the housing unit. That's the most efficient. That is the safest design that you would have. In order to minimize your scope so that your dollars can stay as limited as possible, we're doing our best to focus only on building and jail and minimize the amount of remodeling that needs to get done to be able to keep that connection in place. The way that you accomplish that is by attaching the jail to the building. The Skywalk accomplishes the same thing, but it does increase the cost, okay? The element associated with those things that are tied into that, that Skywalk has to have support on either side of the street. We'll be able to create that Skywalk so that the secure connection between the two buildings, meaning that it has to be a contention grade for the DOC to approve that Skywalk, so it drives the cost of that Skywalk up, which it becomes a very significant number in the scope of your project. So the numbers that you saw there on your, that are in that low to mid to upper 40s, that's the very preliminary numbers, right? So we go through, identify a floor plan, identify these options. What are the preliminary numbers if we bid it in today's dollars? And if you look at the spreadsheet, we won't go through line by line. Each one of them is north of 40. And then if you put escalation, meaning that you're not building it today, so we price it in today's dollars. If you put escalation factor on there, what does that look like if you started a year from now? If you started 18 months from now, what that is, right? So the cost of things doesn't seem to be coming down, so we have to account for some escalation that's there. These numbers aren't the final numbers, so there is many different renditions of design. We're going to take these numbers and obviously see what we can carve out of the scope to bring the number down. But the reality is that those numbers continue to climb in the correctional piece. So, that's a brief update. We did take, some members of the ad hoc committee down to a jail and were able to walk through the jail. And they're gonna be talking about that tonight. If you can attend, I would highly encourage it. What that does is it gives you a real good placeholder of the space that needs to be in a building. It gives you an idea of the connection between pre-booking into housing connection in regards to keeping it staff efficient. One of the main things in jail design is you want it to be staff efficient. It's a staff cost over from the initial principal cost, your capital cost. So that's where we're at today. The reason that we're talking about the city is a couple months ago or a few months ago, the sheriff and I went to the city and just asked what the process would be for potential street closure. How do we start that discussion, right? The direction that we were given by the city was to generate a letter that would be signed by the chair, then sent to the city, and then the city would then consider that and then obviously give us feedback. So that's what the letter is about today. It's really starting those discussions. We haven't presented anything to the city yet other than told them that we're considering closing the street. So we would like to have an opportunity to take some of the renditions of the building so that they can see what it looks like with connection, see what it does to the end of Minor Ave here by the courthouse campus, and then also show them one with the skywalk so that they get some ideas of what that looks like. At the end of the day, a skywalk is going to cost more money, and to make it very, very simple so that all of you can understand the reason that is that if you build housing, the pre-booking and jail support in one building, and you can minimize your renovation, that's your most cost-effective element. We looked at trying to fit it on this east side over here. The only way that it fits on the east side is if we reduce the beds by about 30 beds, which does not give you the forecasted future growth that you need in your bed count. So that's why the two south options are rising to the top for consideration. And obviously the skywalk is more expensive. Both of them can be done. And we've got a follow-up process to take it to the city for review and comment. So that's what we're looking for with the letter. We're not saying that you guys are finally approving it. We're asking to get in front of the city, talk to them about the options, get their feedback, and really become that individual that can work between the two of you to see if we can come up with a solution that's best for the taxpayers. Questions?
Mr. Undershoots.
Yeah, I got quite a few actually that are kind of like perfect, but staffing, what is the statement of staff? Use the staff to do the job.
Remains the same.
Although, we're out there, things that do that, though.
It would be raised. It would be taken down.
Interest cost, that's a good question. What is the interest cost for this? I mean, not exact numbers, but.
So I can tell you what I'm seeing other counties get it right now. They're borrowing somewhere between 3.5% to 4%, but the bond council that I'm working with, you're talking a year out, projecting something that's at between mid 4 to 5. So I've seen 4 3/4 forecasted. Again, that's their crystal ball.
What would be the total interest cost?
I don't know what the total would be.
If I remember that.
Yeah, I just stick that in there. Sorry.
Well, she's getting that, I'll keep on questions. I heard initially, I think in January or February, we said that I thought jail bed.
So our recommendation is never to size a jail bed count with the potential of bringing revenue in. You can't bank on that, right? What you do is you take the ADP that you have historically over the last 20 years, you'll start to see a trend. You take that trend, you have that trend be a forecast for your solution, and at the day that you open, you will have more beds than you have right now, so you will have beds available. So the reality is you could rent beds for building a jail. So I don't want to cloud the decision-making process to say, let's build a jail so we can get a bunch of revenue in, because that's not the premise behind why you're building a jail, and it's not how you're sizing the jail. But it could be something that you as a county decide to do in the future. That's a determination for you, the board, after the jail is in place. But don't use it as a deciding factor on how to size the jail or to build the jail.
For levels, how many was the level of jail?
The housing will be 2 stories. The balance of the building will be a single story. Correct. Yeah, when I say 2 stories, there's a pod control that's in the center, so you're gonna see 2 stories of cells that are actually viewed by 1 pod control center, so there's only 1 pulse there.
Well, it sounds like the old jail, like where it is right now, what happens to that?
Oh, we are actually using part of it, so that's where we're looking at connecting to that, because we're gonna use some of the old cells for the potential court holding cells, and also that connection corridor, because it's already a secure corridor, that we can refurbish some of that. There's other parts of that we're talking about actually having dispatch potentially staying where it's at, and then those other areas, have been undetermined for some of this. It's being reused, not all of it. So day one, it would still be combined with the future that if you decided to separate them, you'd have the availability to do so.
And I know in January it costs us 27.
So the $27 million came out of the Wold study. And the Wold study was driven by more of a linear jail. It wasn't driven by a pod design. So that's why we want to go through these efforts to be able to identify the proper square footage and rightly size the jail that you need so it can be staff efficient and be safe. The other thing is that inflation continues to climb. So pre-COVID, I can give you costs of jails that would actually probably surprise you as to what people pay for a project size-wise compared to what we're forecasting for your potential build in 2024. So it's kind of a combination of 2 elements. It's right sizing the size of the building, and it's also dealing with inflation in those markets.
So about 25.
You can't just note it that it's linear modular. It's really based on the space program to make sure that it's rightly sized. So there's many elements that make up that.
This probably more like any questions about holding here. How much was
So it was, assuming 4.75% interest, and so over the life of the bonds, it would be about 26 million.
we're looking at 69 million.
Yeah, about 60 million. And that was assuming 35 million borrowing. That's the scenario that Justin had given us. So I don't have that scenario for.
So this is actually about what?
Right.
Right, I think that's the question that I think.
Mr. Raven?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I got a couple questions.
Sure.
You know, number one, I'm not making a statement. You know, I think the ad hoc committee is doing a good job, you know, as far as the jail and research and things like that, but I represent the people of this district with Minor Avenue, Lake Ave, and Ward Avenue. I don't have a lot of access to the information. I haven't been to the meetings just for the fact that I don't micromanage what they're doing. But I think you hit on a good point where we should have a public meeting.
Right.
You also, you know, if it's $69 million, they might even have to do a referendum, you know. Here, the other people have built jails in other counties. State of Wisconsin might even push it for a referendum. Go county-wide into regulations. But we do need that visibility with them. You know, really and truthfully, right now, you know, outside of fire sick ad hoc committee members, we don't have.
Sure. So I should probably go into greater detail of the communication plan. So here's how it'll work. We'll get through this planning phase. We'll finalize the floor plan. We'll finalize the budget. We'll finalize we do like a virtual fly around of what the campus would look like with the project here. Put that on a website. We then will generate a letter. That the letter is then issued to every tax-paying address. And I want to stress that. Every tax-paying address, because the letter then goes to those tax-paying addresses, and the letter will then give an explanation of why you are considering a jail. It's not saying you've approved a jail. You're considering a jail, and that this decision is large, questions just asked here are large decisions for you to make, right? And you want to engage them so that your constituents can talk to you about it, right? So everyone will get something in the mail. Hopefully it doesn't go in the circular bin, because that happens. We all get our junk mail. But those that actually open it up will be able to read the letter, and they will see that there is a website specific to this project. And it will identify the need. We're gonna utilize Wold's study. We'll identify everything that Wold talked about in that study that was deficient. I'm gonna talk to you about the solution of what this new jail will provide to be able to solve those deficiencies. Then we're gonna identify the tax impact of what it's gonna affect me as a taxpayer for $100,000. And then we will then identify on that website and on the letter, public meetings. You, the county board, can determine where your meetings are gonna go. I typically like to do 3 to 4 for a county your size. They're fun times, right? So, we get in front of the community, and jails are never something that, are really supported, right? Why we spend money on a jail. So it is our process there to inform them of what's happening in the jail and how do you solve it, have some dialogue between those individuals. There's also a portal on the website that if somebody doesn't want to come there in person, they can send us an email. The email comes to my staff. I typically am copied in on that. If I can't answer the question specific to the project, we will then engage county staff to be able to provide a response, and then that response is then given back to the individual. We do that over the course of about a month with those meetings. And then after that month, we come back to you as the board, and it will start to generate discussion. You'll have your constituents calling and saying, why are you guys spending money? Are you nuts? Or so you'll see that some that will be supported, right? Here's what we need to do. Here's what we would like to do. And then you would then come back, and at that point, then you would make a decision about when, if, how do you move forward with the project. So I want to answer your referendum piece. In the state of Wisconsin, we've never had to deal with a referendum because you have the authority to do this borrowing, right? In a referendum, people say, let's do a referendum. The process that we're doing the communications plan is essentially taking that referendum process, giving them a voice to come to you as the model, and as that you are the voter, right, on behalf of your constituents for your district, and we just need to engage that, right? So let's use the tool that is in place. The other thing to keep in mind is that annually every county board makes a decision that's quite large in regards to the county budget, and that doesn't go to referendum. So there's authority that's given to you in regards to how are you using taxpayer dollars. So it's a matter of making sure that we communicate it properly and handle it. That's why we're doing the communication plan. It's been effective.
Any other questions?
That's another question, but the committee actually had also asked about a cost for retail taxation. And the downside of that is that it would require obviously to transfer those from that site to the forest. But the cost that you estimate for that for a retail site would be, you said between 30 and 39 million.
Yeah, it's going to be under 40. So if you look at the number before the inflation, so it would be the cheapest of all the options, okay, by a couple $1 million. The reality that you're going to run into, and what Tom's alluding to, is that take the model that I just shared with you, is that the same building that we build across the street, if we don't have to do any remodeling, we just save the remodeling, right? So we can take that off. And you tell us, let's go build it somewhere. You pick the site, right? Now I will say that the number that I gave Tom was that all things considered, they're the same sites. Utilities are in close proximity. We're not having to run utilities, 5 to 10 miles. That we're not getting unsuitable soils, meaning that we spend a lot of additional money on the site, right? But the site is comparable. That greenfield site will be a more cost-effective solution because you're not dealing with renovation. It's just simple, right? You're reducing the amount of scope that you have to do. The problem that comes in if you only build a jail away from this campus is now the skywalk that we are essentially using to be able to get transport of those inmates from housing over to here now becomes a squad car ride, right? So you have to have a sally port that's over there. You're gonna have to keep the sally port in place here. The salary port will then have to be to the point where you can get them into the holding unit, holding cells of the courts, right? Staff cost money. We did a scenario for one county where if you look at one post, or it ends up being 4 individuals for that post, over the course of a 30-year process can cost you over $100 million. We can do the same math for you here so that you can have a comparable. You want to make it staff efficient so that the least amount of staff that you need can run this building. That model of building a jail alone doesn't fit that. Now, if you decided to build a justice center and you had the courts out there, and you took the courts from there, you'd have that model, but now you're talking about a price that's nearly double what we're talking about with the jail. And obviously, it's not something that I would think you would want to entertain. And even if you decided to bring that justice center out in 5 to 10 years, you still have that 5 to 10 year expense of staff. So, yeah, we did. I forgot to bring that up. Good point that we did talk about that.
Any other questions?
So I know the discussion will come up in regards to the letter to the city. I would encourage you to at least go through the process. We haven't presented anything to them. And at the end of the day, it may not get closed, but I think it's good to have a discussion. I think it's good to at least get it in front of the city, at least talk about the pros and the cons. We heard some individuals here, obviously, if they're next door to it, 40% they should. They should be able to have that voice. They should be able to talk to you about it. But there's also many other people in the county that if you spend one more dollar, the question would be raised, why did you spend more money when there was another option? And I think that should at least be presented to the city, and let's follow the process and see where it shakes out.
Mr. Undershoots.
I think that we might need to figure out if we, or every time I talk to people, how does that workshop? Go to the city before the court.
Well, you're great, and I think that's why it's on your agenda. If you guys have no incentive, or you don't want to close the street, then Skywalk will be the option. And I'm not here to force your hand to do that. I'm just saying that you're not owning anything to at least have a discussion to say, are they open to it, right? Let's find out what the neighborhood looks like, right? And is the neighborhood open to it? I would think that the neighborhood and the taxpayers would want to know that it's going to cost more money, right? So I agree with you. If you guys decide you don't have the flavor to do it, it's fully your decision, and we'll follow whatever direction you give to us. So.
Anyone else? Anyone else? If not, we'll move on then. Thank you. Resolution number 3. Amending records retention policy, section 2.693. Ashley, can you present?
Yeah.
Oh, we need a motion to bring it up. I got the motion. I need a second. We got a second.
Okay, so this is coming out of the Emergency Services Committee because we installed a new security system. We need to update our ordinances, and there were 2 things that we needed to update. The first is under the patrol division in regards to body camera data. We are subject to state statute on that, so we'll retain those records according to statute. The other is under dispatch, and that is for our building security camera surveillance. And the guidelines for retention on that is incident plus 120 days. So just updating our ordinances so that we make sure we retain that footage for as long as we are supposed to.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move on.
We gotta vote.
Okay,
We gotta vote, right?
okay. Yes. Okay, vote now then. Yes, passed by majority vote. Now we can do that. Number 4, okay? Yeah. If there are no objections, I'm going to strike item number 4 from the agenda. Table to next month. Pardon?
Table till next month.
Table till next month.
Postpone.
Sorry, postpone, yes.
Under no objections, it will be postponed till next month then. And we can move on. Okay, approve county board chair to
The
send,
addendum.
Pardon?
The addendum. Same thing there,
well, that's the,
it's late, but if you gotta tell.
well, we had an addendum that we're striking also from,
For next one.
from Gary. Wants to put it on next month,
Yes.
so that'll be put on next month.
Yes.
Okay, county board chair,
What was being postponed?
The addendum that came out yesterday for the,
Okay, but
there-
on the other one was the change of the,
the drug court.
yeah,
Yeah.
they both were.
Yeah, they'll postpone until next month, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Need more action on that or not?
No,
Okay. Approve county board chair to send minor avenue vacation request list to city of Ladysmith.
you have a motion.
Got a motion? Do we need a second? We have a second. Any discussion? You want?
Well, I would just echo what Kurt said. We haven't even really approached the city, yet to talk about this option. We just want the opportunity to do so, and if it's a flat out no, then we know the direct. But the sheriff and Kurt and I feel that we need to at least try, just have a conversation.
Ms. Underwood?
Or we just want to,
Anyone else wish to speak? Do you have to vote? Okay. We vote now.
so again, the motion is to direct the chair to send a letter that's in your packet to the city regarding the vacation minor avenue.
I suppose. Eight yes, 8 no. Failed by majority vote.
Motion failed.
Motion failed.
We move on.
Now, it would be in order for somebody to make a motion to authorize the county to proceed with the purchase of the Marshfield Clinic Health System building located at 906 College Avenue and amend the wind down expense portion of the asset purchase agreement with Marshfield Clinic.
Need a motion? We got a motion second.
Okay, everyone should have received the packet that was, relatively lengthy in your email on Friday. If you recall, back in closed session, you guys entertained a motion to enter into negotiations with them in an effort to facilitate while we're going through this, if anybody wants to talk about specific terms in this, to attempt to modify terms or anything like that, that should be done to make a motion in the closed session to do that. The way that this is set up right now, this is binding acceptance at the county level. They have signed that. That didn't get to me until 4 o'clock or 4:30 on Friday. So you guys don't have the signed document, but that was sent to me and actually, among others, on Friday afternoon. It's identical to what, was provided to you guys absent the signature page. So, the nuts and bolts of the deal, similar to what we talked about, actually, other than them adding a bunch of, documents, it is identical to what we talked about. The deal is where you folks would agree to purchase the Marshfield Clinic Health Systems building, which would include the 2 leases that, both dated 1990, that have to do with the Marshfield Clinic being able to use the parking spaces that are owned on county property. One was a Fine Arts Center parking lot. If you recall, that was demoed across or on the north side of College Avenue. And then there's also a lease that was provided that gives them spaces on the south side in the clinic/nursing home. Okay? The, again, price of that was $1 million. Okay? The appraisal that we talked about in closed session ranged from $1 million to 1.9 or 1.85, depending on the use and the value. The negotiations and discussions that Ashley Heath and I have had with them, that was, the purpose was to eliminate or remove the wind down clawback provisions of that asset purchase agreement that was entered into back in 2018 when we agreed to sell the hospital to them. So the nuts and bolts of the deal are you guys purchase the clinic building and all the leases, so now you guys own everything in that area, okay? In addition to that, you agree to give them $250,000 of that one. You want to wait, you want me to stop? Okay, okay. $250,000 of the wind down funds. Currently, so if you recall back in 2018 when this was entered into, Marshfield, as part of the contract, is you guys agreed to give them the hospital for $0. Okay. However, the deal was that they had to make sure that the giving away of the hospital and purchasing the new one did not fall on the expenses of the taxpayers. And as a result, the negotiation ended up into them putting $3 million in the wind down fund. Part of those funds were used to repay those county employees who now lost their WRS vesting. It paid for unemployment that would have gone on the county taxpayers, among other things. We can get a detailed list if anybody wants. But ballpark, or not ballpark, the exact amount of money that's currently in that wind down fund is $2,099,153.96. I was talking with Jamie prior to this meeting, and there's ballpark $5,000 to $20,000 of expenses coming in over the last month or two that haven't been paid because now we're responsible for utilities and things because that hospital is empty and has been since the spring. Okay, so as part of this deal, the wind down expense fund is also going to be used to pay for the house demolition that you guys approved last month, which is just short of $1 million. Okay, result is by approving this purchase, you pay $1 million to the building, you give the $250,000 out of the wind down fund left. Okay, you then get the balance of the wind down fund, which is $1.85 million, to use with no clawback provisions by Marshfield. In addition, the way that the asset purchase agreement and the wind down expense fund read is that in the event the county spent the money to demo the hospital and eventually sold that vacant land, that money would have to be used to repay the wind down fund, which in essence would go back to Marshfield Clinic. The wind down expense fund also had to be used. That's why the demolition was done relatively urgently, is because there was a 2-year sunset on that. Any money not spent in that wind down fund within that period of time would have had to be given back to Marshfield. So just questions at the moment. Yes, sir.
But so my deal doesn't, it's not just.
That is exactly correct. So as part of this, the the closing date of this is scheduled for mid-December, that we have 45 days from execution in which to inspect the facility as we deem necessary. If we determine that it is, and we don't want it because of that, we can get out of this agreement, no troubles, we get the earnest money back, and then, we go back to where we are right now. This county board, or if they want to delegate it to a committee, that's completely up to this board.
Mr. Kudo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick one. If I understand it correctly, it's money of $10,000.
Correct.
So the sale price actually would be $990,000.
Well, for example, if we would not exercise or terminate this because we're exercising our right to term, we would get that $10,000 back. But yes, if it does go through, that it's a purchase price, they've already got 10,000, so we own 990 more.
Mr. Undershoot?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. The clinic is, right now with, we buy all the wine down front. If we still cover that, that would be.
That is correct.
And it, these are
They get merged into our title, so yes, it eliminates the lease problem. You could put a for sale sign in it on December 16th. Correct.
Mr. Raven?
Yes. I think one thing. To get out of that. Our benefit to buy them are sold. Someone else. But what's a win-win thing? Found at least. Someone else wants it. Here we go. I know. You know, to sell that body.
Or they may not have sold it and you wouldn't have been able to because nobody's gonna buy it subject to that lease, that's correct.
You know, critical. Read that block of land up. The whole home. I read them sexually.
Mr. Dussel?
Rich, say something would go wrong, we exercise our right.
Mhm.
Inspection. Due to the fact that we've started and we've signed contract on the tear down of this building, if that way down money isn't spent because the tear down isn't complete, is there any language there?
We didn't talk in the last 6 weeks. Let's discuss that. When Ash and I met with, them back in June, okay, they discussed that open. The contract that we have for the demolition is said that it's, they anticipate it to be done by June 30th of 2024. So,
July 17th.
July 17th, thank you, of 2024. In any event, it was 6 months prior to the drop dead date, so to speak.
Any other questions?
Just one other tidbit of information that I think everybody should know. So, this hospital sale that you guys entered into back in 2013 when you sold the nursing home, okay? Since that time, the county has in a segregated account, because we didn't know what the cost of that, demolition ultimately was gonna be, is just over $3.4 million. Okay, in addition to that, again, you're gonna have ballpark 500,000 of the wind down funds to add to that as well. And then you're also gonna have that clinic building that if you choose to, you can sell. So at worst case, you've put $3.9 million into the, county fund.
Any other questions? Vote on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can vote now. Passed by majority vote. 16 yes.
We don't have to go into closed session.
No, there will be no need to do the closed session that's on there.
We don't?
No,
Okay.
But we,
So,
but we have to do this one though.
yeah, there's the,
Yeah.
fund, the closed session right underneath that, again, we don't need to, but you do need to go into closed session on that, 89380
Oh,
claim.
okay. Got it. Need a motion to go into closed session? Aye. Okay.
Which line?
There you go.
What's that? There's two closed sessions. One is indented, one's not.
But,
We're doing the second
yeah,
one.
yeah.
You want to voice vote it?
Think of it.
Where are we gonna get now?
Was it just this?
So we voted on that, because that came up there at 6. So now it's to go into closed session.
Yes.
Okay, so you need to read that paragraph, please. Yes.
Motion, closed session announced by chair. The chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to state stat 19.85 paragraph 1 to discuss with Wisconsin stat 893.80 notice of circumstances and claims of Michael Squada. We should get out of here, please, can you?
Yep, but it's open session to vote on, and then it's closed session.
Paragraph G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. We can